Good morning, students. Welcome. So yesterday we have completed epithelial tissues. In that, a little portion is not completed, that is about glands. First I will finish these glands, then we'll go to the next tissues, connective tissues. Glands, some of the cuboidal, and columnar epithelial cells. Some of the cuboidal and columnar epithelial cells that forms into the glands, which is called glandular epithelium. It is called glandular epithelium. So these are specially useful for the secretions of materials. Some fluids are releasing from this glandular epithelium. Glandular epithelium is formed by some of the cuboidal and columnar epithelial cells. Already we have discussed yesterday. So in this, based on the number, we discussed based on number, unicellular glands and multicellular glands. So we discussed about this yesterday. Unicellular glands, isolated cells are present, separated cells are present. Example, goblet cells. Multicellular glands, clusters of cells are present. Group of cells that forms into glands called multicellular glands. Example for the multicellular glands, salivary glands. We discussed about this yesterday. Next, based on the mode of pouring, glands are of two types, called exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands are also called as ducted glands. So ducts are present in these glands. Through the ducts only their secretions are releasing. Example for the ducted glands, salivary glands that secretes saliva. Then sebaceous glands that secretes oily secretion, which is called sebum. So oil is releasing onto the body surface from sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are present in the skin and they release some oily secretions which are called sebum. Next, gastric glands that releases a juice which is called gastric juice. Gastric glands are present in the stomach which secretes a juice which is called gastric juice. Next, intestinal glands are present in the walls of intestine. They release a juice which is called intestinal juice. They secretes a juice which is called intestinal juice. Next, it also secretes like ceruminous glands that secretes cerumen. It is also called as earwax. Cerumen is also called as earwax. Okay, so these are different types of exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are ducted glands. They consist ducts. They release their secretions through the ducts. Examples: salivary glands secrete saliva. Sebaceous glands that secretes oily secretion which is called sebum. Then gastric glands. Gastric glands secretes gastric juices. Then intestinal glands that secretes intestinal juice. Then seminiferous like ceruminous glands. Ceruminous glands secretes cerumen. Cerumen is also called as earwax. So all these secretions are passing through the ducts. That's why these are called ducted glands. Second type of glands are the endocrine glands. Endocrine glands are the ductless glands. Endocrine glands are the ductless glands. So without any ducts, the glands without any ducts, they release the hormones. They release the hormones. So hormones are releasing into the blood directly, not through the ducts. Ducts are not present. Okay, ducts are not present. That's why these are called ductless glands. Ductless glands, they secrete secretions directly into the blood without through the ducts. So they secrete hormones. So you know that endocrine glands. Example for the endocrine glands: pituitary gland. Okay, now pituitary gland. Pituitary gland that secretes hormones. Hormones are growth hormone. It releases some hormones like growth hormone. Then prolactin. Prolactin, growth hormone, prolactin, some hormones. Next, adrenocorticotropic hormones. No need of that explanation about these hormones. Just they release the hormones. Release the hormones. Pituitary gland that release hormones like growth hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, then thyroid stimulating hormone, like that. Hormones. Next, thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. Thyroid gland that secretes a hormone which is called thyroxine. That secretes a hormone which is called thyroxine. Thyroid glands. Pituitary gland, thyroid gland, adrenal gland, parathyroid gland. All these are the different types of endocrine glands which are present in our body that release the hormones. And all these glands are the ductless glands without any ducts. Okay, they release the hormones directly into the blood, not through the ducts. That's why these are called ductless glands, endocrine glands. So mainly these two types of glands are present in our body, and one more type of glands are also present. One more type of glands are also present which are called heterocrine. Heterocrine glands. Heterocrine. So heterocrine means it acts as both exocrine and endocrine. Especially if the ducts are present, those are called exocrine glands. If the ducts are absent, those are called endocrine glands. So heterocrine glands means, so these are two types, dual type. Dual type. Dual type means they act as both exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Like they release like these secretions through the ducts, and also they release the hormones. They act as both exocrine glands and endocrine glands, which are called heterocrine glands. Example for the heterocrine glands. Best example, pancreas. Okay, now pancreas. Pancreas is a heterocrine gland, or it is also called as mixed gland. Okay, now it is also called as mixed gland. Both the types, like exocrine and endocrine type, called mixed gland, pancreas. It release the juices which is called pancreatic juice. It release the pancreatic juice and also release the hormones. Okay, so juices are releases which are useful for the digestion, and also release the hormones. Both hormones and juices both are released by this pancreas. That's why it is a heterocrine gland, or it is a mixed gland. So in our body, these are the types of glands. And other types of glands are also present. Again, exocrine glands. Exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are again of three types. Exocrine glands are again of three types based on the releasing of secretory material. Based on the releasing of secretory material, exocrine glands are three types. Like first one is the merocrine. Merocrine. Second one is the apocrine. Apocrine. Third one is the holocrine. Merocrine, apocrine, holocrine. Three types of glands. Merocrine glands. For example, this one is a merocrine gland. It is a exocrine gland. Okay, exocrine gland. Here secretory material is present. Secretory material is present. This is a secretory material. So secretory material which is present inside the cell, it releasing into the another tissues without damaging the cell. Simply the material which is present inside the cell that releasing into outside. Okay, without damaging the cell, without disintegrating the cell, without damaging the cell. So it is called merocrine. Okay, merocrine means it secretes material without disintegrating, without damaging of the cells. Without damaging of cells. Without damaging of cells, they release secretory materials. It is called merocrine. Example for the merocrine glands. Examples, pancreas. So pancreas is a merocrine gland and also salivary gland. Salivary gland. Pancreas and salivary gland both are the merocrine glands. What is the meaning of merocrine gland? They release the secretory waste material, but these secretory waste materials are releasing outside without damaging the cell. Cell is never damaged, just they release the secretory waste material. This type of glands are called merocrine glands. Example, pancreas and salivary glands. Examples are important here. Next, apocrine glands. Apocrine glands. Apocrine gland means apical part. Apical part. So second one, apocrine. Apical part. Apical part of the cell. Apical means the terminal part. The terminal part of the cell that consists the secretory material. The secretory material is stored in the apical part, and this apical part is pinched off, means releasing. Okay, it cut off or it bud off. That apical part with the secretory material that pinched off from the cell, and that release the secretory material. That means a part of the cell is damaged. The apical part of the cell is damaged for releasing of secretory material. So this type of glands are called apocrine glands. Merocrine glands means without damaging cells, just they release the materials without damaging the cells. Apocrine part means apical part. Apocrine gland means apical part is pinched off. Okay, apical part is pinched off, that release the secretory material. So example for the apocrine glands, mammary glands. Mammary glands which secretes milk. So these mammary glands are a type of apocrine glands. They release the milk by pinching off that apical part. The last part of the cell is pinched off. It is released to release that secretory material like milk. Apocrine glands. Holocrine glands. Holocrine. Holocrine means total cell. Total cell is disintegrated. Total cell is disintegrated. For example, this one is the holocrine gland. Okay, holocrine gland secretory material is present here. This secretory material, it is releasing outside by damaging total cell. Total cell is damaged to release the secretory material, which is called holocrine. Total cell is disintegrated to release the secretory material. So, based on the releasing of materials from the cells, so exocrine glands are of three types, like merocrine, apocrine and holocrine. Merocrine glands, the glands which release the secretory materials without damaging the cells. Without any damaging of cells, it releases the materials. Example, pancreas, salivary glands. Next, apocrine glands. Apocrine gland means apical part, the last part, apical part. Apical part of the cell is pinched off along with that secretory material. We know that glands that release secretory materials, for example, salivary gland that release secretory material, that is saliva. Okay, sebaceous glands that secrete secretory material called sebum. Then pancreas that releases pancreatic juice. Gastric gland that releases gastric juice. So, by releasing of materials, the releasing of materials from the cell, it is differently. Some cells, they release that secretory materials without damaging the cells called merocrine. Next, some glands that release the secretory materials by damaging the apical part, the last part of the cell is pinched off. Actually, this is a part of the cell only, but this part of the cell is pinched off. It is pinched off from the cell called apocrine. Next, holocrine. Total cell is disintegrated to release that secretory materials. Okay, three types of exocrine glands: merocrine, apocrine, holocrine. Examples are important here. Okay, identify the merocrine gland from the following. So options: pancreas, salivary gland, mammary gland, both pancreas and salivary gland. Which is correct? Pancreas and salivary gland. Example for the merocrine gland. Identify the holocrine glands. Okay, identify the holocrine glands from the following. Example for the holocrine glands: sebaceous gland. Sebaceous glands secretes a oily secretion which is called sebum. On our skin, one oily secretion is formed. This oily secretion is releasing from these glands only. Sebaceous glands only that secretes the oily secretion which is called sebum. So, but for releasing of the sebum or oily secretion, sebaceous glands totally damaged. In our skin, some millions of sebaceous glands are present. So, these sebaceous glands are damaged. They are damaged to release the oily secretion which is called sebum. Okay. So, three types of glands are present, like merocrine, apocrine and holocrine. Right. Epithelial tissue is completed. Epithelial tissue, we discussed from 3 days epithelial tissues. First tissues in our body completed. Next, second type of tissues in our body called connective tissues. So, we go to the connective tissues. Connective tissues. Connective tissues. So, in the name connective tissues, connection. One tissue is connected with another tissue with the help of this type of tissue. One tissue is connected with another tissue with the help of another tissue which is called connective tissue. Okay. Connective tissues function is they connect the two types of tissues or two types of organs. One organ is connected with another organ with the help of a type of tissue which is also called as a connective tissue. Okay, in our body, the most abundant tissues, abundant means in our body, most of the tissues in our body are the connective tissues only. In our body, most of the tissues are the connective tissues. Okay, so comparing with the remaining 4 types of animal tissues are there. In these 4 types of animal tissues, connective tissues are most important and more abundant tissues which are present in our body, which connect the two different types of tissues. That's why it is called connective tissue. Okay. Then what are the components of the connective tissues? Okay, what are the components? Which type of materials are present in the connective tissues? Which type of materials are present? First type of material which is present in the connective tissue is the matrix. Okay, it is called matrix or ground substance. It is called ground substance. Matrix or ground substance. Matrix. First type of material. Just connective tissue. In this connective tissue, many cells are present. This is connective tissue. Many cells are present like this. Okay. These cells are present in a fluid, in a medium. This medium is called matrix. This medium is called matrix. Cells are present in the connective tissue. These cells are present in a medium which is called matrix. So, first part is the matrix. Matrix is a ground substance. In this matrix only all the cells are present in the connective tissues. So, matrix is formed by the mucopolysaccharides. It is formed by the mucopolysaccharides. Okay, mucopolysaccharide, it is hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is the mucopolysaccharide present in the matrix of the connective tissues. Okay, this matrix that consists the hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is present in this matrix. In this matrix, some cells also present. Okay, cells also present. Connective tissue cells. Connective tissue cells are different types of cells are there, like fibroblast cells are present. Fibroblast cells are present. Then mast cells are present. Then plasma cells are present. Plasma cells. Fibroblast cells, mast cells, plasma cells. So, different adipocytes. Adipocytes, different types of cells are present in the matrix of the connective tissues. Okay, so we are discussing about the components of the connective tissues. What are the components of connective tissues? In the connective tissues, ground substance is present, which provides space for all these cells. Okay, so in that matrix only all these cells are present. This matrix is also called as ground substance. So, matrix that is made up with the mucopolysaccharides and some proteins are also present. Proteins, mucopolysaccharides, that most important mucopolysaccharide is the hyaluronic acid. So, hyaluronic acid is a mucopolysaccharide and some proteins are present, some cells also present. Then in the matrix some fibers also present. Fibers. Okay, now fibers that connect the different types of cells. One cell is connected with other cell with the help of some fibers. In the middle some fibers are also present. Okay, now so these fibers, mainly 3 types of fibers are present, which are called collagen fibers. These fibers are called collagen fibers. Collagen fibers, then elastic fibers. Elastic fibers and reticular fibers. Reticular fibers. Collagen fibers, elastic fibers and reticular fibers. We'll discuss about these fibers in the next classes. Collagen fibers. Collagen fibers, it is made up with a protein which is called collagen. So, it is white fiber, white in color. Elastic fiber. Elastic fiber is made up with a protein which is called elastin. So, it is yellow in color. Then reticular fibers. Reticular fibers are made up with a protein which is called reticularin. Reticularin. Three types of fibers are present. Components of the connective tissues are the matrix that consists the cells, and also it consists fibers. So matrix is a ground substance. It is a ground substance which is made up with the mucopolysaccharides. So mucopolysaccharide is a hyaluronic acid, and also it consists the proteins. Next, cells. Cells are fibroblast cells, mast cells, plasma cells, and adipocytes. And some other macrophages are also present. Macrophages are also present. Not only these cells, these fibers are also present, which are called collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. Collagen fibers are made up with a protein called collagen, which is white in color. Then elastic fibers are made up with a protein called elastin, which are yellow in color. Reticular fibers are made up with a protein called reticularin. Okay, components of connective tissues. Right, next, types of connective tissues. More abundant connective tissues in our body are more abundant. Most of the tissues in our body are the connective tissues only, and different types of connective tissues which are present in our body. Connective tissue. Connective tissues are mainly three types. Three types of connective tissues are present. So first type of connective tissues are the loose connective tissues. Loose connective tissues. Second type of connective tissues are the dense connective tissues. Okay, loose connective tissues, dense connective tissues, then specialized connective tissues. Three types of connective tissues are present in the human body. More abundant, these connective tissues are more abundant, and these are of three types. Loose connective tissues. Loose connective tissues means cells are loosely arranged. Loosely arranged means spaces are present. Spaces like areoli, spaces are present in these connective tissues. Loose connective tissues. Dense connective tissues. Cells are tightly attached with each other. Next, specialized connective tissues. Again, loose connective tissues are of three types. Loose connective tissues are of three types called areolar tissue, and adipose tissues. Then reticularis tissues. Okay, now loose connective tissues are again of three types called areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissues. Then dense connective tissues. Dense connective tissues are of two types called dense regular connective tissues. Then second one is the dense irregular connective tissues. Dense regular and dense irregular connective tissues. Types of dense connective tissues. Next, specialized connective tissues. Specialized connective tissues are again of two types, like bone and cartilage. Then blood and lymph. These are special connective tissues in our body. Bone provide the strength. Okay, now bone that provide the strength. Cartilage, soft bone. Bone and cartilage are also a type of connective tissues, which are the special tissues. Okay, now special connective tissues are the bone and cartilage. Blood and lymph. Blood is a fluid connective tissue. It is also one type of tissue, connective tissue, but it is in fluid connective tissue, blood and lymph. These are special connective tissues. Okay, now So three types of connective tissues are present, which are called loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, special connective tissue. Loose connective tissues. Loose connective tissues are again of three types, like areolar tissue, adipose tissue, reticular tissue. Then dense connective tissues are again of two types, called dense regular, dense irregular connective tissues. Then special connective tissues are the bone, cartilage, blood and lymph. So one by one I'll discuss all these tissues. So areolar tissue. What is the structure of areolar tissue? What are the components present in the areolar tissue? And where the areolar tissue is present? Then adipose tissue. Adipose tissue. What are the components of adipose tissue? Then where we find adipose tissue? Reticular tissue, like that. Dense regular connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue. Then special connective tissues like bone, cartilage, blood and lymph, where we find this type of tissues in our body. So all locations are important. Structure of these tissues and locations are most important. Okay, so we'll learn one after the other. So first one, areolar tissue. Okay, all of you understand that classification of connective tissues. Connective tissues are classified into three groups, like loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, special connective tissue. Here loose connective tissues are areolar connective tissue, adipose tissue, reticular tissue. Dense connective tissues are dense regular, dense irregular. Then special connective tissues are bone, cartilage, blood and lymph. Okay. So first one, in this first one, loose connective tissue, areolar tissue. What are the components present in the areolar tissue? Okay. Now look at the structure of areolar tissue. Structure of areolar tissue. So first one, loose connective tissues. In the loose connective tissue, first one, areolar. Areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue, it is the most abundant. Most abundant tissue. It is a most abundant tissue. Most of the tissues are the areolar tissues in our body. Again, most abundant tissues are the areolar tissues, areolar connective tissues. Then between the cells, some spaces are present. Spaces are present which are called areoli. Okay, some spaces are present which are called areoli. Some cells are present like this. Okay, between the cells. Between the cells, some spaces are present. They leave some spaces. These spaces are called areoli. So due to the presence of the areoli or spaces, it is called areolar connective tissue. Again, areolar tissues, some spaces are present between the cells, areoli. And where it is present, areolar tissue, where it is present, mostly it is present in the subcutaneous layer. Subcutaneous layer. Subcutaneous layer just below the skin. Below the skin. This type of tissues are present below the skin. Okay, subcutaneous layer is made up with the areolar connective tissue. Mostly it acts as packing tissue. Packing tissue. Why it is called packing tissue? It packs the two types of tissues. One tissue is connected with another tissue, or one tissue is packed with the help of this type of tissues. That's why these areolar connective tissues are also called as packing tissues. Okay, packing tissues. General structure of the areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue, it is a type of loose connective tissue and it is most abundant tissue. So more amount of tissue in our body is the areolar connective tissue. Then some spaces are present between the cells, some spaces are present. These spaces are called areoli. Due to the presence of this spaces areoli only, it is called areolar connective tissue. Then where it is present? It is present mostly in the subcutaneous layer, like below the skin, and it acts as the packing tissue. It packs the different types of tissues, packing tissues. Okay, so general structure of areolar connective tissues. Then components of areolar connective tissue. What are the components present in the areolar connective tissues? Areolar connective tissues components. Components here in the areolar connective tissue also matrix is present. Okay, now, matrix is present. This matrix is also made up with mucopolysaccharides. Mucopolysaccharides. Matrix are also made up with the mucopolysaccharides. Areolar connective tissue components. Then cells. Cells of areolar connective tissues. What are the cells present in the areolar connective tissues? So, in the areolar connective tissues, mainly 5 types of cells are present. First type of cells are called fibroblast cells. Fibroblast cells. Okay, now fibroblast cells which are present in the areolar connective tissues. Fibroblast cells. Fibroblast cells. Fibroblast cells which are present in the areolar connective tissue that secretes fibers. Secretes fibers. Okay, so how many types of fibers are present in the connective tissues? Mainly 3 types of fibers are present. These 3 types of fibers are the collagen fibers. Collagen fibers. Then elastic fibers. Elastic fibers. Then reticular fibers. Reticular fibers. Collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. These 3 types of fibers are secreted by some cells which are called fibroblast cells. Okay, in the connective tissues, first type of cells are the fibroblast cells. Fibroblast cells secretes fibers. So these fibers are the collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. 3 types of fibers are secreting from the fibroblast cells. So fibroblast cells, after the formation of these fibers, they are modified into the fibrocytes. They are modified into the fibrocytes. Fibrocytes are actually, these are inactive cells. Fibrocytes are actually inactive cells. Okay, now fibroblast cells are active cells, but fibrocytes are not active cells. These are inactive cells. Fibroblast cells function, they secrete fibers. That's why those are active cells. After the formation of the fibers, they become inactive like fibrocytes. Fibroblast, fibrocytes. Fibroblast cells secretes the fibers which are active. Then after the formation of the fibers, fibroblast cells are modified into the fibrocytes which are inactive cells. So first type of cells present in these areolar connective tissues. First type of cells. I hope all you understand. Next, second type of cells. Second type of cells which are present in the areolar connective tissues cells. Okay, mast cells. Mast cells. Mast cells are the second type of cells which are present in the areolar connective tissues. So mast cells secretes heparin. heparin, histamine, bradykinin, heparin, histamine, bradykinin, and serotonin. Again, heparin, histamine, bradykinin, serotonin. So you know that heparin. What is heparin? Heparin is an anticoagulant. It is an anticoagulant. What is the meaning of anticoagulant? Anticoagulant is present in our blood. It prevents the clotting of blood. While the blood flowing inside of our blood vessels, it will not clot due to the presence of anticoagulant, which is called heparin. So this heparin is secreted from the mast cells present in the areolar connective tissues. Okay, heparin is an anticoagulant. Next, histamine and bradykinin are the vasodilators. Histamine and bradykinin are the vasodilators. Vasodilator means vaso means blood vessel. Dilators means dilates means relaxes. Okay, when the blood is flowing inside the blood vessel, if the blood vessels are relaxes, the walls of the blood vessels are relaxes, so this phenomenon is called vasodilation. Okay, so vasodilators are the histamine and bradykinin. So these vasodilators that decrease the BP by relaxing the blood vessel. When the lumen of the blood vessel is narrow, the flow of blood in the blood vessel with more pressure. That's why it is more blood pressure. Due to the vasodilation means relaxation of the blood vessel. Due to the relaxation of the blood vessel, the flow of the blood inside the blood vessel is it is very slow, not with fast. It is very slow. It becomes very slow. That's why BP is decreases. BP is normal or BP is decreases due to the vasodilation. So vasodilators are the histamine and bradykinin. Histamine and bradykinin are the vasodilators which decrease the BP. Okay, which decrease the BP. Serotonin is a vasoconstrictor. Vasoconstrictor, opposite to the vasodilation. Again, vasodilation means the lumen of blood vessel is increases. Okay, vasoconstriction means come close. The lumen of blood vessel will be decreases, which is called vasoconstriction. Okay, so by the vasoconstriction, BP is increases or decreases. Blood is flowing like this. Okay, blood is flowing inside the blood vessel. So due to the vasoconstriction means the lumen of the blood vessel become narrow. That's why flow of blood with more pressure. The flow of blood to the heart with more pressure. That's why BP increases. So it increase BP. Vasodilators decreases the BP. Then vasoconstrictors increases the BP. Okay, so we are discussing about the cells of areolar connective tissues. First type of cells are fibroblast cells, which secretes the fibers. Second type of cells are mast cells. Mast cells secrete some materials which are called heparin, histamine, bradykinin, serotonin. Heparin is an anticoagulant which prevent the clotting of blood. Next, histamine and bradykinin. Histamine and bradykinin are the vasodilators which decrease the BP. Next, serotonin. Serotonin is a vasoconstrictor which increases the BP. So, BP is decreased and BP is increased by releasing of these materials. Like heparin, histamine, bradykinin, serotonin are released from the mast cells, second type of cells which are present in the areolar connective tissues. Okay, now. Next, third type of cells. Third type of cells, macrophages. Macrophages are a type of phagocytic cells. Macrophages are also called as amoeboid cells. Amoeboid cells. They looks like amoeba, they move like amoeba. Okay, they looks like amoeba and they move like amoeba. That's why these are called amoeboid cells, which are phagocytic in nature. Phagocytic in nature. So what is the meaning of phagocytosis? If any microorganism present in our body, that microorganism is engulfed. That is engulfed means taking inside. Okay, that is eaten. That is this type of cells only. If any foreign substance is present, foreign particle is present here, this foreign particle is ingested by this cell. That's why it is called phagocytic cell. Phagocytic cells. All the macrophages are the phagocytic in nature, amoeboid cells. Okay, now phagocytic in nature. And macrophages are different types of macrophages are present in our body, like histiocytes. Histiocytes are a type of phagocytic cells present in the tissues. Okay, now histiocytes are a type of phagocytic cells present in the tissues. Like that, different types of phagocytic cells are present in our body, named with different names. If the phagocytic cells are present in the tissues, these are called histiocytes. Macrophages, amoeboid cells, which are phagocytic in nature. So these are the third type of cells. Okay. Then fourth type of cells are the plasma cells. Plasma cells. So plasma cells are released by or produced by. Plasma cells are produced by B lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are of two types, called B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So B lymphocytes that produce the plasma cells. B lymphocytes produce the plasma cells. So what is the function of plasma cells? Plasma cells produce the antibodies. Antibodies production. Okay, production of antibodies. Production of antibodies is the function of plasma cells, which are releasing from the B lymphocytes. Okay, now fourth type of cells which are present in the areolar connective tissues are plasma cells. Plasma cells are produced by the B lymphocytes, which produce the antibodies. Antibody production is the function of plasma cells. Fourth type of cells. And fifth type of cells are also there, which are called adipocytes. Adipocytes that store the fat. Fat storage is the function of adipocytes. Here plasma cells, appearance of identification of plasma cell. Plasma cell inside nucleus is present, which is cartwheel shaped nucleus is present. Cartwheel shaped nucleus. The shape of the nucleus, it looks like cartwheel. So cartwheel shaped nucleus is present inside this plasma cell. Identification, like macrophages looks like amoeba. Adipocytes stores the fat. Okay, now adipocytes store fat. So this is the fat. Total fat is stored inside that adipocyte, and it also has one nucleus, then adipose tissues like fat, which store the fat. 5 types of cells are present in the areolar connective tissues. Okay, first type of cells First type of cells, what we discussed. First type of cells are fibroblast cells. Fibroblast cell that secretes the fibers. What are the inactive fibroblast cells called? Inactive fibroblast cells are called fibrocytes. Inactive cells are called fibrocytes. Okay, fibrocytes are inactive fibroblast cells. What is the function of fibroblast cells? Fibroblast cells secretes the fibers. How many types of fibers are present in the connective tissues? 3 types of fibers are present in the connective tissues. What are they? 3 types of fibers. Collagen fibers, elastic fibers and reticular fibers. 3 types of fibers are present inside this connective tissues. Okay, and macrophages. Macrophages are a type of amoeboid cells. Okay, mast cells are also present. We discussed about the mast cells. Mast cells that secretes heparin, histamine, bradykinin, serotonin. Heparin is an anticoagulant. Histamine and bradykinin are vasodilators. Serotonin, vasoconstrictor. Then macrophages, amoeboid cells, which are phagocytic in nature, and the macrophages which are present in the tissues called histiocytes. Plasma cells produced by the B lymphocytes, and they produce the antibodies, antibody production. The nucleus, shape of the nucleus of the plasma cells, cartwheel shaped nucleus. Then adipocytes. Adipocytes are useful for the fat storage. They store the fat. Okay, and for fat storage in our body, a special tissue is present. Some cells are present below the skin, which are called adipocytes. Adipose tissue is present. Adipose tissue that consists adipocytes. So these adipocytes are useful for the storage of fat. In this class, we discussed about the glands. Okay, glands, different types of glands like unicellular glands, multicellular glands, then exocrine glands, endocrine glands. Exocrine glands are called ducted glands. Endocrine glands are called ductless glands. Then based on the mode of secretion, 3 types of glands are there called merocrine, apocrine and holocrine. 3 types of glands with their examples also. And we started connective tissues also. Connective tissue structure. In the structure of connective tissues that connect the different tissues. Two tissues are connected with each other with the help of connective tissue. And mostly it is present in the packing tissue, which pack the tissues. Okay, more abundant tissues are the connective tissues. And connective tissue differentiation, classification of connective tissues. And most important point is connective tissues are origin. Origin of connective tissues are mesodermal in origin. Mesodermal in origin. Epithelial tissues are arising from the 3 layers. Ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. 3 layers. From 3 layers, epithelial tissues are derived. But from mesoderm, only 1 layer. From only mesoderm, these connective tissues are derived. Okay, mesodermal in origin. Then types of connective tissue classification. Classification, it divides into 3 classes. It divides into 3 divisions. 3 parts. Like loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and special connective tissues. Okay, loose connective tissues. Loose connective tissues are again for 3 types. Okay, loose connective tissues are areolar tissues. Areolar tissue, adipose tissue, reticularis tissues. Loose connective tissues. Dense connective tissues, dense regular, dense irregular connective tissues. Special connective tissues like bone, cartilage, blood and lymph. So in this first one is completed. First one, that is the areolar connective tissue. Okay, in the next class, in the tomorrow class, we will discuss about the, again, fibers are also there. 3 types of fibers are there. We will discuss about the fibers and also dense connective tissue and reticular connective tissue, their structure, their locations. We will discuss tomorrow. Okay, thank you.